What's up, everybody? We're back. We're doing another game recap. Today, we're going to be looking over the games from October 15th, and the first one was the London game, 24-16. The Ravens beat the Titans. Lamar Jackson got a lot of hate on social media because of this game, but I think he did pretty well. 21-30, 223 yards, a touchdown and a pick, 13 carries for 62 yards. He was also the leading rusher for the team. If there's anybody who wants to sell Lamar Jackson because of this game, absolutely go get him in a trade because this is a solid performance. He's still the leading rusher on his team by a pretty substantial margin. When you look at it, 62-41 was second place. So he's still out there getting yards. The passing yardage wasn't really there. The touchdowns didn't really appear. No rushing touchdown. Only the one passing touchdown to the one pick isn't great. But there's still a lot to love from this game. I say hold Lamar Jackson. Do not trade him based off of this performance. And Gus Edwards, 16 carries, 41 yards. Justice Hill, 8 carries, 35 yards. I don't think we should be rostering any Ravens running back at this point because Keaton Mitchell just got called up from injured reserve for this game. He's an undrafted rookie, but he got a lot of praise coming out of training camp. So I think it's a matter of time before he gets in here and he starts taking carries away from Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. And Edwards and Hill's fantasy value is going to decrease because of that. So hold off on adding either of these guys. The 16 carries is really nice, but I don't think it's going to last. And Zay Flowers, just a 1 carry for 1 yard. Mark Andrews had a carry for 0 yards. Andrews was also the leading receiver, 4 catches, 69 yards on 6 targets. And Zay Flowers was the leader in receiving points in this Ravens receiving group. 6 catches, 50 yards. 1 touchdown, 8 targets. So he's the leader in targets, the leader in catches. He also had the touchdown. He is the number 1 receiver in Baltimore over Mark Andrews. He's going to be the guy. Sometimes we get the catches and the yards, but the touchdown doesn't get there. He's getting these targets. Hold on to Zay Flowers. Just because he had 50 yards in this game does not mean that, he's hitting this rookie wall or anything like that. He's going to keep getting targets. Play Zay Flowers. Obviously it depends on what else you're considering, but Zay Flowers is a really solid play week to week because he's going to continue to get volume. And Mark Andrews, having said that, he is still a fantastic tight end option. You could argue the second best tight end in fantasy, but he's not the number 1 receiver like a lot of people were expecting going into this year, but he's still someone you just set at tight end every single week and forget about it. He is absolutely a reliable starter. And Nelson Agholor had 2 catches for 40 yards. Odell Beckham Jr., 2 catches for 35 on 4 targets. He is a safe drop. And Rashod Bateman, also a safe drop, 2 catches for 15 yards on 3 targets. It doesn't feel like Bateman is going to happen at all this year. If something were to happen, I think Odell Beckham is going to get all the looks. Like, if Zay Flowers goes down or Mark Andrews goes down, then I think Odell's the guy you want, not necessarily Bateman. And Gus Edwards had a catch for 12. Patrick Ricard had a catch for 3. And Justice Hill, 3 catches for 0 yards. I think the interesting thing here is that Justice Hill, even though he got 0 yards to Gus Edwards' 12, he is still getting the receiving work. So, say next week happens and Keaton Mitchell still doesn't get any touches, at least we know from here on out, Gus Edwards is the guy on the ground, and Justice Hill can get you the receiving work that Gus Edwards doesn't usually do. Because you look at Gus Edwards' career, he doesn't have very many catches at all. So, if anybody's going to get the receiving work here, it's going to be Keaton Mitchell or Justice Hill. For the Titans, Ryan Tannehill was 8-16, 76 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. He went out with an injury, so Malik Willis came in 4-5, 74 yards. Clearly, Malik Willis is the better stat line here. I don't know if he'll be able to complete passes at this rate going forward, but if he could do anything like this, he's going to be an upgrade over Ryan Tannehill up to this point in the season. So watch out to see if Tannehill's injury is going to linger, and it opens up the door for Malik Willis to have an opportunity here. Derrick Henry led the way for all rushers. He had 12 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. Malik Willis had 3 carries for 17, and Tyjae Spears had 4 carries for 15. So Derrick Henry, I think, is a play every single week. Spears gets some looks, but it's still going to be the Derrick Henry show. It's Derrick Henry. So he's going to be someone that we can rely on week to week. And Tyjae is still going to have some value because here he is leading the team in receiving off of one catch. 48 yards, one target because he broke one. This is the kind of explosion that Tyjae Spears adds to this offense. But it's going to be done not taking away from Derrick Henry, but it's going to be done collaborating with Derrick Henry. It's not going to be done taking off Derrick Henry's plate necessarily. And like I was saying earlier, the receivers didn't really get anything going. 3 catches for 25 yards on 4 targets for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. DeAndre Hopkins had an absolutely miserable day. 1 catch, 20 yards on 5 targets. This is what we're going to expect. If Malik Willis comes in, it's going to be a lot of this. And because Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback, it's going to be some of this too. So we know what DeAndre Hopkins is. He has that floor because of the volume, but I mean, when the volume is 5 catches compared to 4, then it's just miserable. So he's not someone you can absolutely rely on week to week, but if you have nobody else, then he's an understandable start. Chig Okonkwo, 2 catches for 18 yards for him. I think he's a drop, not necessarily someone you want to start at tight end right now. Derrick Henry, 2 catches for 16 yards. Love to see the receiving production there. Josh Riley had a catch for 11, the rookie from Cincinnati. Chris Moore had a catch for 6, and Kyle Phillips had that muff punt, and he had just the 1 catch for 6. Next game is the Commanders and the Falcons. The Commanders took this one 24-16. Sam Howell, 14-23, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. We love the touchdowns, but everything else is concerning. The low completion percentage, the low yards, no picks is obviously awesome, but this is somebody you don't want to rely on week to week to be your starting fantasy quarterback. He's somebody you kind of want to play with the matchups. Like, he's at that Jimmy Garoppolo level for me. Not quite the Dak Prescott level, just the tier right below it. You can do better. I'm sure in most leagues there's somebody better on your waiver wire, but you can do worse, just not significantly worse, in my opinion. Brian Robinson led the way for all rushers. The Falcons have a really good running defense, so not a whole lot here for the rushers. 10 carries, 31 yards for Robinson. Chris Rodriguez, though, out-carrying Antonio Gibson is definitely noteworthy. 4 carries, 23 yards for him. Gibson had 3 carries for 15. Sam Howell had 4 carries for 3. And Curtis Samuel had a carry for 0 yards. So Antonio Gibson is a clear drop if you haven't dropped him already. And keep an eye on Chris Rodriguez taking more carries from him too. That's definitely something we want to note in case Brian Robinson goes out. Terry McLaurin surprisingly had a really good day with A.J. Terrell's shadow. 6 catches, 81 yards on 11 targets. Really impressive stuff. He, on the other hand, is absolutely someone you should consider starting week to week. And Curtis Samuel, giving us really good value. 4 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown for him. This is just what he's been doing every week, like getting you like double-digit fantasy points. He's a really solid start right now. And Brian Robinson, 2 catches, 25 yards, and the receiving touchdown really helped his day there. Logan Thomas, just the 1 catch for 2 yards. Disappointing stuff from him. He is, I hesitate to say a clear drop because tight end is just so miserable. But I'm sure they're like in a 10-team league or a 12-team league, there are people just as good as Logan Thomas on your wire. And Antonio Gibson just had the 1 catch for 1 yard, but it did go for a touchdown. So that's good stuff there. And Jahan Dotson did not haul in his only target. Really disappointing there. And De'Ami Brown did not haul in his only target. For the Falcons, Desmond Ridder was 28-47, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. A busy day for him, but not a particularly good day. It might be Taylor Heineke time here soon, but the rushing offense did not really produce as we have become accustomed to. 13 carries for 51 yards for Tyler Allgeier. He was the leading rusher. Bijan Robinson having the same amount of carries as Tyler Allgeier for only 37 yards. It's really frustrating that Arthur Smith continues to split carries with Tyler Allgeier and Bijan Robinson. And the fact that Tyler Allgeier was more efficient with his touches today is going to give Arthur Smith even more reason to keep playing Tyler Allgeier. So I think there's a cap on how good Bijan Robinson can be as long as Arthur Smith is the coach, because this guy loves giving the ball to Tyler Allgeier, and he also loved saying that Cordell Patterson was going to be the joker. Just 1 carry for 0 yards, and he had 1 catch for 6 yards. I think the joke might have been that we thought it would mean something, because so far that joker role has done absolutely nothing. 2 carries for 18 yards for Desmond Ridder. Clear drop if you added him after that big game last week. And Drake London, really awesome stuff here. 9 catches, 125 yards on 12 targets. He's putting together some nice fantasy days here lately. He's been over 10 points in fantasy for a long time here. Definitely someone that you want to look out for as far as a play. You could do much worse than Drake London. I know I dropped him in one league, and I'm already regretting that, but I do have him in a dynasty league, so really happy about that. And Kyle Pitts finally getting that touchdown. 4 catches, 43 yards, touchdown. Really solid stuff there. Don't drop him. It's going to be tough to rely on him week to week, but at this point, pretty much every tight end is tough to rely on week to week. So you could do worse than playing Kyle Pitts every week. And Bijan Robinson had the 5 catches for 43 yards. The annoying thing that Arthur Smith said too was like, hey, we can't load up Bijan because we're playing the long game here. We need to make sure Bijan's healthy at the end of the year. But like, if you're not playing the short game, you're going to lose to the Commanders. Like, you got to play Bijan Robinson more. He got a lot of catches here, but this whole split and carry Tyler Allgeier thing is really frustrating. And Matt Collins, 3 catches for 41 yards for him. Jonnu Smith, very similar stat line to Kyle Pitts, 4 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. He is one of the few tight ends who's been really reliable week to week. I would suggest adding Jonnu Smith if he is on your wire. Michael Pruitt had a catch for 9. Cordell Patterson just a catch for 6. Scotty Miller had a catch for 4. Cordero Hodge not hauling his only target. Van Jefferson in his first game as a Falcon had 2 targets but not hauling either of them. And Tyler Allgeier did not haul in his only target. Next game is the Seahawks and the Bengals. The Bengals beat them 17-13. Geno Smith, disappointing stuff here. 27 of 41, 323 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Bengals have a pretty good pass defense, and the yards were there. The completion percentage is fine. Just the no touchdowns and the 2 interceptions is killer. But he's, again, above Sam Howell, above Jimmy Garoppolo, in that tier with Dak Prescott right now, with the potential to get higher because he's putting out these high yardage numbers, and he's getting a lot of attempts too. Kenneth Walker is becoming one of the most reliable running backs in fantasy. 19 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown. The efficiency wasn't there today, but he's getting volume like crazy. He's getting touchdowns. Play him every single week. Don't even think about matchup at this point. He's just really good. Geno Smith, 4 carries, 20 yards, and Zach Charbonnet, just the 2 carries for 5. I think he's a safe drop at this point. Tyler Lockett led the way for all receivers. 94 yards, 6 catches on 8 targets. It's going to be interesting to see how Jackson Smith-Njigba works into this offense more, because apparently he's been ramping up from that wrist injury. 4 catches, 48 yards for Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's a sneaky ad right now, but if Lockett keeps producing like this, I'm not sure how high Jackson Smith-Njigba's ceiling is going to be, as long as Lockett and Metcalf are healthy. Metcalf had 4 catches for 69 yards. He led the way in targets, though, with 10. So that's definitely notable. Metcalf is really reliable as well. He doesn't really have the upside because he has Lockett and Smith-Njigba taking away touches, but he's still like super reliable. He got you 11 points here. That's fine. You know, if that's his floor, then we'll take it. Jake Bobo had 2 catches for 43 yards on 2 targets. Kenneth Walker, 3 catches, 27 yards. Good to see him getting more receiving work. Colby Parkinson had 3 catches for 16 yards. Zach Charbonnet had 2 catches for 14. Noah Fant had a catch for 9. Will Dissly had a catch for 4. And DJ Dallas had a catch for -1. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow was 24-35, only 185 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. They have their bye coming next week, so I think he's going to be a lot better coming out of that bye. This is another, we're lucky to say that we have 2 opportunities to buy low on Joe Burrow, and this is absolutely one of them. Joe Mixon, 12 carries for 38 yards. Hate to see that. No touchdown. Low efficiency, not good there. Chase Brown had the 1 carry for 4, and Joe Burrow had 2 carries for 4. But you're still starting Joe Mixon every single week because he is getting that volume. Jamar Chase, 6 catches for 80 yards on 13 targets. Good to see him coming back strong. Even though Burrow didn't do great in this game, Jamar Chase still had an awesome day. Tyler Boyd, 7 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown. Really solid fantasy day from him. Joe Mixon, 3 catches for 24 yards. This is the what Joe Mixon can do, because he isn't the most efficient runner, but he does add a lot of receiving value. T. Higgins, really disappointing stuff here coming off that rib injury. 2 catches, 20 yards on 4 targets. He, in the past, has been cash money week to week. One of the most reliable fantasy receivers there is. But when he's coming off an injury, he's putting up duds like this. He's not that lock to be in your lineup every single week that he was before, but he is still somebody that we want to hold. He's not somebody that you want to trade away right now either, because his value is going to be low because he's had so many dud performances. This bye is going to be really helpful to Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, so hold on to T. Higgins. Let's see what happens after this bye. Chase Brown had a catch for 8. Irv Smith had a catch for 5. He's a safe drop as well. Drew Sample had a catch for 4. Andre Iosivas, the rookie from Princeton, had a touchdown catch for 3. And Travion Williams also had 2 catches for 3. Next game is the Colts and the Jags. The Jags took this one 37-20. Gardner Minshew had a really busy day. 33 of 55, 329 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Obviously, this isn't ideal for the Colts. They were down pretty early in this game, so they had to keep throwing. And Gardner Minshew fed Michael Pittman a lot, but other than that, he really spread it around. I don't think that Gardner Minshew is someone that we want to rely on. He's in that, I keep referring to this Jimmy Garoppolo tier, and that's kind of where I see Gardner Minshew right now. He could get better as the season goes on, but not somebody that we want to add at this point, even though he does get the high yards. The 3 interceptions here is the most concerning. And Zach Moss, he led the way for all rushers. He had 7 carries for 21 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, though, finally getting more carries than him. 8 carries, 19 yards. Going forward, Jonathan Taylor is going to be the one you want to start. Zach Moss got a lot of shine last week when Taylor was just making his debut on the season. Now Taylor's got that game behind him. Now he's getting more carries than Zach Moss. It's just a matter of time before Taylor completely takes over this rushing load. And Gardner Minshew also added 2 carries for 4. Like I was talking about earlier, Michael Pittman had a monster day. 9 catches, 109 yards on 14 targets. He is becoming a really reliable option. It's going to be interesting to see how Gardner Minshew continues to throw, because in the past he's given a lot of looks to Josh Downs, but in this one it was all Pittman. So congratulations if you had Pittman in your lineup. Kylan Granson led the way for all tight ends for the Colts. 3 catches, 67 yards on 4 targets. Jonathan Taylor also had 5 catches for 46 yards on 6 targets, really helping out his fantasy day there. Zach Moss chipped in 6 catches for 38 yards. Alec Pierce had 3 catches for 25. Isaiah McKenzie had 2 catches for 23. Josh Downs, 5 catches, 21 yards, and a touchdown. The reception saved his day. The touchdown saved his day. The yards will get higher because Gardner Minshew really likes throwing to him. He had 8 targets, only behind Michael Pittman. Granted, Pittman almost doubled that with 14, but still, Downs is absolutely someone you want to keep on your roster. If they're going to keep throwing it 55 times, Josh Downs is going to get looks. So hang on to him. Amari Rodgers did not haul in either of his targets. Trey Sermon did not haul in his target. Will Mallory and Drew Ogletree did not haul in either of their targets. For the Jags, Trevor Lawrence just not getting the yards. 20 of 30, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. I think it's time to reevaluate where Trevor Lawrence sits in rankings. He's been consistently ranked as a top 10 in consensus rankings, but I think we could safely put him a tier below that right now. He just hasn't been putting up the yards like that, and he hasn't really been adding up the rushing either. So disappointing stuff from Trevor Lawrence up to this point as far as production is concerned for fantasy. And Travis Etienne, another great day. 18 carries, 55 yards, 3.1 yards per carry isn't great, but 2 touchdowns on the ground is fantastic. Really just monster stuff. He continues to dominate the rushing load here. Dearness Johnson had a carry for 19 yards. Trevor Lawrence just had 3 carries for 15. Tank Bigsby, 3 carries for 2 yards. He is a safe drop. CJ Beathard came in, had 3 carries for -2, and Calvin Ridley had the 1 carry for -4. When Zay Jones doesn't play, Christian Kirk seems to always have a good day. 3 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown. Not a spectacular day by any means, but he did get that touchdown. We'll take the yards with that touchdown. We'll take it. Evan Ingram, 7 catches, 41 yards. He is becoming one of the most reliable tight ends in fantasy. There are going to be people that you should absolutely play ahead of Evan Ingram as far as tight ends, like Travis Kelce, play him. TJ Hawkinson, play him. Mark Andrews, play him. But Evan Ingram is just below that. So if you have him on your team, feel very comfortable with starting him. Calvin Ridley, he's kind of the anti-Christian Kirk. When Zay Jones is out, Calvin Ridley does not play well. Even though he got all the targets in this one, 4 catches, 30 yards, 8 targets is not good stuff. At least we know now that if Zay Jones is out, don't play Calvin Ridley. If Zay Jones is in, Calvin Ridley is a lot more appealing. And Travis Etienne, 3 catches for 28 yards for him. Brenton Strange had 2 catches for 27 and a touchdown. Interesting to see just how much Trevor Lawrence really likes throwing to tight ends. And Tank Bigsby just had the 1 catch for 6. Next game is the Dolphins and the Panthers. The Dolphins won this one 42-21. They were down 14 early in this game too, so good to see them roaring back like we know the Dolphins offense is capable of. Bryce Young for the Panthers, 23-38, 217 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. He is not someone you want to be adding. And Johnny Hekker, the punter, also threw a pass for 7 yards there. Chuba Hubbard, he is absolutely someone you want to add if he is on your wire. 19 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. He is way more efficient than Miles Sanders has been this season, and he had an opportunity here to really show what he can do when he's the workhorse, and he absolutely took advantage of that. So look out for Chuba Hubbard to get a little more carries than Miles Sanders moving forward. And Raheem Blackshear spelled Chuba Hubbard. He had 5 carries for 18 yards, and Laviska Shenault also had a carry for 2. Adam Thielen is becoming one of the most reliable receivers in fantasy. Who had that going into the year? 11 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown is fantastic. 13 targets. This is somebody you want to just add, or not add because he's going to be on every single team by now, but he's somebody you want to play every single week. He's just getting you consistent production. This is a guy. This is a big-time player. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say that on the field, but in the stat sheet, he is an absolute beast. So play him every single week until he starts slowing down. DJ Chark had 3 catches for 26 yards and 6 targets. He was second in targets there. Tommy Tremble had 2 catches for 25. Jonathan Mingo just the 2 catches for 21. I wonder if his role is going to expand as we move forward. And Hayden Hurst just had the 1 catch for 16. Laviska Shenault had 3 catches for 15. Raheem Blackshear added a catch for 4. Chuba Hubbard added a catch for 2. And Terrace Marshall did not haul in any of his 3 targets. For the Dolphins, Tua had another really solid day. 21-31, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He's cash money. Play him every single week. And Mike White did not complete his pass, and he threw a pick. So Tua is here to stay. Tua is a beast. Play him in your fantasy lineups. He is a very reliable fantasy starter. Raheem Mostert had a monster day like we were expecting. 17 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns, just monster stuff. If Jeff Wilson misses again next week, even more reason to play Raheem Mostert, but at this point, he is just somebody you want to start every single week. Chris Brooks came in garbage time and had 6 carries for 28 yards. Salvin Ahmed had 6 carries for 23 yards and a touchdown. Good to see him in relief. It wasn't an explosion day like I thought it would be, but he did put out some really solid output. That touchdown there really saved him. Tua Tagovailoa had a carry for 0 yards, and Mike White had 3 carries for -4. Tyreek Hill did some more Tyreek Hill things. 6 catches, 163 yards and a touchdown. This is why every single time people ask me, hey, who should I trade Tyreek Hill for? Nobody. It doesn't matter what the package is. Do not trade Tyreek Hill under any circumstance. He is the best receiver in fantasy. Jalen Waddle, good to see him bouncing back. Just the 51 yards, but 7 catches and a touchdown will absolutely get it done. He is a strong hold at this point. I don't think he's a sell high because of those yards. And Braxton Berrios had 2 catches for 20. Raheem Mostert adding 3 catches for 17 yards and a receiving touchdown, just adding to his monster day. Salvin Ahmed had 3 catches for 11 yards on 5 targets, and Durham Smythe did not haul in his only target. Next game is the Vikings and the Bears. The Vikings took this one 19-13. Kirk Cousins, 21-31, only 181 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. He played like somebody who just lost their best receiver. I think we need to reevaluate where he is going to be ranked every week. He's going to be in that Trevor Lawrence tier from here on out, as long as Justin Jefferson is out. Because 181 yards is just not going to get it done. Alexander Madison had 18 carries for 44 yards. Good to see him carrying the load like this, but he did absolutely nothing as far as efficiency is concerned. Only 2.4 yards per carry. Cam Akers just had the 1 carry for 8 yards. Brandon Powell had a carry for -1, and Kirk Cousins added -5 yards on the ground. TJ Hawkinson one of the most reliable fantasy options you can get at tight end. 6 catches, 50 yards on 8 targets, led the way here. KJ Osborne, 4 catches for 48 yards on 5 targets. Jordan Addison had 3 catches for 28 and a touchdown. Hold KJ Osborne. I don't think Jordan Addison is quite the safe play that we thought he was going into this week because of the good matchup. Even so, this touchdown totally saved his day. So hold off on playing Jordan Addison unless you have some decent options. And same thing for KJ Osborne. Hold off on playing him until we get another sample as to what this offense is going to look like without Justin Jefferson. Alexander Mattison helping out his day here with 4 catches on 28 yards. Brandon Powell, 3 catches for 20, and Cam Akers had a catch for 7. For the Bears, super disappointing stuff in their passing offense. Justin Fields went down with an injury, so we got a lot of Tyson Bagent. 10 of 14, 83 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. Even if he gets some looks here, do not add Tyson Bagent onto your fantasy team. Justin Fields, only 6 of 10 for 58 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. Just miserable stuff from the Bears passers today. Really missed opportunity here with how weak the pass defense is for the Vikings. Deontay Foreman led the way for all rushers. He had 15 carries for 65 yards. Solid output for him. Justin Fields had 8 carries for 46 yards before he went down. Darrington Evans added 9 carries for 32 yards. Willis Jones had 2 carries for 15, and Tyson Bagent. He's going to add some value with his legs for sure, so that's going to be one of the positives with him. But he's an undrafted rookie from a lower level, so I don't think that we're going to see any sort of points explosion from Tyson Bagent anytime soon. But he did have the rushing touchdown here on 4 yards and 2 carries. DJ Moore, disappointing stuff because I was expecting like top 5 receiver sort of stuff with him facing the Vikings, who have a weak rush defense. Justin Fields is red hot, force feeding it to DJ Moore, but it just did not happen in this game. 5 catches, 51 yards. He led all receivers with 8 targets in every category, but still would have liked to see those numbers go up a little bit. Darnell Mooney had 2 catches for 48 yards on 3 targets. Tyler Scott had 2 catches for 12 yards on 4 targets. Robert Tonyan had a catch for 11 yards. Cole Kmet, disappointing stuff here, 2 catches for 9 yards on 3 targets. Another one of those guys like just below Evan Ingram, in my opinion, on the tight end tier list. Willis Jones had a catch for 5. Deontay Foreman added a catch for 2. Darrington Evans added a catch for 2 as well. Kari Blasingame, the fullback, had a catch for 1, and Trent Taylor did not haul in his only target. Next game was the most surprising result of the day. 19-17, the Browns beat the undefeated Niners. Brock Purdy, just a super disappointing day for him. 12 of 27, 125 yards, a touchdown and a pick. I think we could just write this one off as the Browns are a super elite defense. Jim Schwartz is very underrated as a defensive coordinator. Purdy just got swallowed up by that defense here today. Christian McCaffrey, his day was shortened because of injury. 11 carries for 43 yards for him. Jordan Mason had 5 carries for 27 yards and a touchdown. If Christian McCaffrey misses any time, he is absolutely priority ad. Ray McLeod also had 2 carries for 23. Deebo Samuel, he also went down with an injury. 2 carries for 11 yards for him. Brock Purdy had 3 carries for 7. And Elijah Mitchell, just the 2 carries for -3. It seems like Jordan Mason is really passing him. But this could be a product of Elijah Mitchell coming back from injury. But at the same time, Mason has been really impressive with the touches he's had up to this point. And Brandon Ayuk, when Deebo Samuel went down with an injury, it really opened up the door for him. 4 catches, 76 yards on 10 targets. This is a great performance against a team who was number 1 against receivers going into this game. So this should be a positive for all Ayuk managers, even though the production wasn't super amazing. And Juwan Jennings, 2 catches for 26 yards. Christian McCaffrey had 3 catches for 9 yards and a touchdown. Really saved his day there with that receiving touchdown. Kyle Juszczyk had a catch for 9 yards. Ray McLeod had a catch for 4. And George Kittle, just the 1 catch for 1 yard on 2 targets. Disappointing stuff there. Ross Dwelley did not haul in his only target. And before Deebo Samuel went down, he did not haul in his only target. For the Browns, a win's a win. P.J. Walker, 18 of 34, 192, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Obviously, we are not adding P.J. Walker, but hey, he's winning games, so that's all they care about in Cleveland. Jerome Ford, 17 carries, 84 yards. Great to see the efficiency going up with him. Great to see him out carrying Kareem Hunt by this margin too, so keep plugged in Jerome Ford as you normally would. Kareem Hunt, 12 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown. He will probably be a popular waiver ad this week, but with how well Jerome Ford played, I don't think Kareem Hunt should be that super duper priority ad this week. Marquise Goodwin had a carry for 20. Elijah Moore had a carry for 8. PJ Walker had 3 carries for just the 1 yard. Amari Cooper, super surprising stuff here that PJ Walker fed him like this. 4 catches, 108 yards, no touchdowns. Really surprising stuff here that PJ Walker was able to connect with Cooper this much. Kareem Hunt had 3 catches for 24 yards on 3 targets. David Njoku, just 3 catches for 24 yards. I think he's a safe drop at this point. There are a lot of tight ends about as good as David Njoku on the wire in most leagues. Elijah Moore, 4 catches for 19 yards on 7 targets. Interesting that he had this few of yards compared to Amari Cooper on just 1 less target and the same amount of catches. Jerome Ford, 2 catches for 7 yards for him. David Bell had the 1 catch for 6, and Marquise Goodwin had the catch for 4. Next game was the Saints and the Texans. The Texans took this one 20-13. Derek Carr, 32 of 50, 353 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He is also Jimmy Garoppolo tier. He was very busy in this one, 50 attempts. He's going to get you yards, but the touchdowns have not been there at all this year. It may never really get there with Derek Carr, but it is good to see him pushing the ball down the field. And Taysom Hill completed a pass for 4 as well. Alvin Kamara, 19 carries, 68 yards. He is going to be the workhorse as long as Jamal Williams is out. So if you have Kendre Miller, he is absolutely a safe drop. Rashid Shaheed, 2 carries for 18 yards for him. Derek Carr had a carry for 2. Taysom Hill had a carry for 2. And Kendre Miller, 2 carries for -1. Drop him if you got him. Chris Olave, 7 catches, 97 yards on 10 targets. Super impressive stuff. Good to see him bouncing back. This is what we expect from Chris Olave. High catches, high yards, no touchdowns. We'll take it. Rashid Shaheed, 2 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. He is going to be super up and down. So trying to predict the Rashid Shaheed weeks is going to be pretty tough because he's going to be so crazy up and down. He's going to break these long touchdowns, 51-yarder here, but not someone you want to rely on week to week. And Taysom Hill is a similar sort of tight end, super up and down. 7 catches, 49 yards on 8 targets, but he does have that high upside, so an interesting ad for sure if you want to get Taysom Hill. And Michael Thomas, doing Michael Thomas things. This is what he does every single week. 5 catches, 45 yards, 8 targets. It's like clockwork with Michael Thomas. If you need 10 points, he'll get you 10 points. If you need more than 10 points, not going to happen. If you're looking for less than 10 points, not going to happen. He's going to get you around 10 every single week. Alvin Kamara adding to his day-to-day, 7 catches, 36 yards on 8 targets. Foster Moreau had 4 catches for 33, and Kendre Miller added a catch for 13 as well. For the Texans, C.J. Stroud was 13-27 for 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He's an interesting bench stash, I think, at this point. Not someone you necessarily want to rely on week to week, but a really solid player to have on your bench. And Devin Singletary had 12 carries for 58 yards. Dameon Pierce, 13 carries, 34 yards. This is one of the most shocking things of this season, just how badly Dameon Pierce has played. He looked great last year, but he just cannot get anything going this year whatsoever. The efficiency just has not been there. Trade him if you can, but it's going to be really tough after he just cannot get any yards per carry going whatsoever. And Devin Singletary's here averaging almost 5 per carry, so this may not be Dameon Pierce's backfield for much longer. We'll just have to watch that. Xavier Hutchinson added 2 carries for 15 yards. Mike Boone had a carry for 11, and C.J. Stroud had 3 carries for 2. Nico Collins, 4 catches, 80 yards on 6 targets. We'll take this. He had the Marshawn Lattimore shadow today and was still able to have a really solid day. So keep playing him. He's a really solid play week to week. Dalton Schultz really making a case for being a reliable tight end target. The Saints have a good tight end defense historically, and he was still out there getting 4 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Really solid stuff for Dalton Schultz. He's kind of in that Cole Kmet tier where he could have these explosion weeks, but I'm just not entirely ready to put him in that Evan Ingram tier that's a little bit more consistent. Noah Brown, this was his first game back from injury. 2 catches for 37 yards for him. Brevin Jordan had a catch for 11. Robert Woods, just the one catch for 6 yards and a touchdown. Disappointing stuff there. We were expecting a little more with Tank Dell out. And Devin Singletary added a catch for 4. Dameon Pierce, not targeted, no catches. It is just not looking good for Dameon Pierce right now. Next game is the Patriots and the Raiders. The Raiders took this one 21-17. Mac Jones, decent enough day for him, 24-33, 200 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. I think this is just enough to keep his job. An interesting development here, though. Bailey Zappi was a healthy scratch, and they made Malik Cunningham effectively the number 2 quarterback here. If anything happens to Mac Jones, Malik Cunningham could be a really good fantasy quarterback with what he can do with his legs. So definitely have him on your radar. I don't think we should be adding him yet until there's some sort of announcement with Mac Jones, but Mac Jones completed enough passes today. 200 yards is okay. So I'm expecting Mac Jones to have another week as a starter going forward, at least another week, maybe more. We'll just have to see what he does against a tougher defense than this. Ramondre Stevenson, 10 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown, really saving his day there with that touchdown. This is a high production day for Ramondre because he just hasn't been putting up numbers at all this season. Ezekiel Elliott, 7 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. This is why Ramondre hasn't really been getting that value, because Zeke is out here, same efficiency pretty much, and getting a touchdown. So bummer as a Stevenson manager to see that going on. And Kendrick Bourne had a carry for 4, and Mac Jones had the carry for -1. Kendrick Bourne is the clear number 1 receiver for the Patriots right now. 10 catches, 89 yards, and 11 targets. Mac Jones really likes throwing to him. He is definitely someone you want to have on your roster. Probably not a play at this point because the Patriots' passing offense just has these games where they do absolutely nothing. But if there's a nice matchup, you could do worse than Kendrick Bourne for sure. Mike Gesicki had 3 catches for 28 yards. Ramondre Stevenson, 5 catches for 24 yards on 6 targets. Farrell Brown had a catch for 15. Ezekiel Elliott just had the catch for 15. Interesting to see Ramondre's receiving output getting higher. This is where he really shined last year. So I wonder if this is going to be a reset towards getting Ramondre the ball through the air a little bit more. Ty Montgomery had a catch for 9. Devontae Parker just had the catch for 7. Hunter Henry, disappointing stuff for him. Just the catch for 7 on 3 targets. I think he's a pretty safe job at this point. There are probably tight ends just as good as Hunter Henry on your wire right now. In most leagues anyways, 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues. And Tyquan Thornton only hauled in 1 of his targets, but he had it for 6 yards. For the Raiders, Jimmy Garoppolo went down with an injury, and it was Brian Hoyer who came in instead of Aiden O'Connell. So that's going to be interesting if Jimmy Garoppolo misses time, who's going to be the starter, because Aiden O'Connell got the start earlier in the season, but now Hoyer's coming in, so who knows where that's going. Garoppolo was 14-22 for 162 yards, a touchdown, and a pick before he went down. And Brian Hoyer went out there and completed 6 of 10 for 102 yards. I don't think either of them are really an ad at this point. Even if Jimmy Garoppolo misses time, don't go adding Brian Hoyer. Josh Jacobs, he's having his own efficiency issues here. 25 carries, 77 yards. We love the 25 carries. That's fantastic. But it's just a little disappointing that he's not doing more with these. But he's just going to continue to get volume. So play him every single week if you got him. Trey Tucker had a carry for 4. Jimmy Garoppolo had 2 carries for 4. Zamir White added 2 carries for 2. And Brian Hoyer had 3 carries for -3. Michael Mayer out here leading the team in receiving. 5 catches, 75 yards on 6 targets. Really solid stuff from him. He's probably going to be a popular waiver ad this week. But I just hesitate to fully go in on Michael Mayer because Austin Hooper's had some production here. This is his first game where he's really taken off, so watch what Mayer does here. But if you are desperate at tight end, I definitely understand adding Mayer. Jacoby Myers, good day for him. 5 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. We'll absolutely take that against his former team. Trey Tucker looked good out there. 2 catches, 57 yards, really explosive stuff from him. Devontae Adams had a super disappointing day. 2 catches for 29 yards on 5 targets. Austin Hooper, 2 catches for 19. Josh Jacobs had 2 catches for 16 on 5 targets. Zamir White had 2 catches for 7, and Amir Abdullah and DeAndre Carter did not haul in either of their targets. Next game is the Lions and the Bucks. The Lions took this one 20-6. The Lions are putting together a really impressive season up to this point. Jared Goff is 30-44 for 353 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. He's absolutely someone worth playing every single week if you're desperate at quarterback. If you have Kirk Cousins, someone like that has been underperforming. Trevor Lawrence. Jared Goff is a really solid option for you. I think they're all kind of in that same mix together, but it seems like Jared Goff is pushing himself ahead of those two guys here recently. So watch out for Jared Goff. I think he's a solid add if he's on your wire. Craig Reynolds, 10 carries for 15 yards. The rushing offense just didn't really get anything going here. David Montgomery went out with an injury. He had 6 carries for 14 yards before he did that. Divine Ozigbo had 3 carries for 5. Khalif Raymond had a carry for 3. And Jared Goff had 2 carries for 3. If David Montgomery misses time, Craig Reynolds is going to be a really popular add. I think that's a really solid option. It's going to be interesting to see if Jahmyr Gibbs comes back next week because he almost played this week, but he just keeps missing time. So there are definitely worse ads you can make than Craig Reynolds moving forward. And Amon-Ra St. Brown had a monster day. 12 catches, 124 yards, a touchdown, 15 targets. He is somebody you want to play regardless of matchup. Play him every single week. Easy money if you have Amon-Ra St. Brown on your team. And Jameson Williams showing some of that explosion that he hasn't shown in the past. 2 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. He is going to be a popular ad as well. I think that's absolutely worth an ad. You don't want to play him next week, but a really good stash to have on your bench. And Josh Reynolds, I think he's a safe drop. 3 catches for 50 yards for him. Sam Laporta had 11 targets, but only the 4 catches for 36 yards. If people are down on Sam Laporta because of this poor performance, absolutely trade for him because the 11 targets is just not something you see for tight ends very often. And Laporta has been a tremendous producer so far this season. So definitely trade for Sam Laporta if people who have him on their team are doubting him right now. Craig Reynolds, 2 catches for 28 yards for him. Khalif Raymond, 3 catches for 23. David Montgomery, before he went down, had a catch for 19. Divine Ozigbo had a catch for 8. Brock Wright, the tight end, had a catch for 7, and Marvin Jones also had a catch for 5. For the Bucks, Baker Mayfield was 19 of 37, 206 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. He is another person in that Jimmy Garoppolo tier. I would not add Baker Mayfield, even though this was a tough matchup for him. Somebody you want to play the matchups with. Rashod White, 7 carries, 26 yards. He can't really get anything going, but neither can Keyshawn Vaughn. 6 carries for 9 yards. He's going to keep getting volume, but he's not going to do much with it. So if you could trade Rashod White, I would highly recommend doing that because this lack of efficiency is going to be annoying the entire year. Baker Mayfield had 2 carries for 6, and Devin Tompkins had a carry for 5. Chris Godwin had a great day. 6 catches, 77 yards on 7 targets. He's creeping back into fantasy relevancy. He struggled to start the year, but now he's putting together some games here. So definitely look out for Chris Godwin as somebody you want to start week to week. But there are going to be better options, but he's definitely staking his claim here lately. Mike Evans, somewhat disappointing, but the 10 targets is nice. 4 catches for 49 yards for him. Trey Palmer, just the 2 catches for 47 on 7 targets. Really interesting to see the 7 targets with him. He is only really going to have value if Mike Evans goes down, though, because he's that traditional outside receiver. K. Dotton, just the 1 catch for 15 yards. Rashod White, 3 catches for 12. This is where he can add a little bit of value, but I think it's just value for us to trade him. Payne Durham had a catch for 8. Keyshawn Vaughn did not haul in either of his targets. And Devin Tompkins, 4 targets, 2 catches, -2 yards there. Next game is the Rams and the Cardinals. The Rams took this one 26-9. Josh Dobbs, interesting output here. 21 of 41. Don't like that, but 235 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Not the greatest passing day, but he led the team in rushing. 7 carries, 47 yards. He's going to add a little bit of value with his legs. You can do worse than Joshua Dobbs, but you can do better for sure. Just kind of that middle-of-the-road quarterback that we should start as long as the matchup is good. Not somebody you want to start week to week. Keontae Ingram got most of the carries here. Interesting. 10 carries, 40 yards. Amari DiMercado, just the 2 carries for 11. I think DiMercado is a safe drop at this point. Damian Williams, 8 carries for 36. And Rondale Moore had 3 carries for -4. Michael Wilson led the way for all receivers. 3 catches, 62 yards on 4 targets. Interesting to see how his role starts to develop as the season goes on because he's gotten a lot of playing time at least, just not a whole bunch of targets, at least consistently. Trey McBride had 4 catches for 62 yards. Interesting that the he's starting to make his name for himself as far as a receiver is concerned. Zach Ertz was getting a bunch of targets early on, but he wasn't really doing much with those targets. Hollywood Brown, just the 4 catches for 34 yards on 11 targets for him. Disappointing stuff there. Rondale Moore, 4 catches for 30 yards. His role is starting to grow a little bit more as the season goes on. Zach Ertz, I wonder if this is the start of something with him. 2 catches for 22 yards on 5 targets. Keontae Ingram, 2 catches, 11 yards. I think this is where the case to drop Amari DiMercado starts, because I thought DiMercado would at least make a name for himself in receiving, but Keontae Ingram caught more passes than him, had more targets than him. So I think, like I said earlier, Amari DiMercado is a solid drop. 1 catch, 6 yards. Damian Williams had a catch for 8. Zach Pascal did not haul in his only target, and Greg Dortch did not haul in his only target. For the Rams, Matthew Stafford was 15 of 24, 226 yards, a touchdown, no picks. He's a really solid option week to week. Not like a premium option, but definitely someone worth grabbing off the wire if you want a backup quarterback. Kyron Williams had a monster day. 20 carries, 158 yards, and a touchdown. One of the most surprising things this fantasy season is his emergence as a clear top 5 running back in fantasy. Play him every single week regardless of matchup. He is just on absolute fire lately. Zach Evans came in garbage time and had 4 carries for 10 yards. Ronnie Rivers had 3 carries for 9, and Matthew Stafford added a carry for 2 yards. Cooper Kupp had a monster day. 7 catches, 148 yards, and a touchdown. Another guy. Play him every single week regardless of matchup. He is going to get volume. Tutu Atwell just had the 1 catch for 30 yards. He's a safe drop. Puka Nacua, disappointing day here. 4 catches for 26 yards on 7 targets. I got so much crap on social media saying that he is a sell high, and the sell high window on Puka Nacua has effectively closed. So I hope you listened to me there. I'm not always right, but that time I was absolutely right saying Puka Nacua is a sell high. Tyler Higbee had 2 catches for 18 yards, and Ronnie Rivers had a catch for 4. Next game is another huge surprise. The Jets beat the Eagles, the undefeated Eagles, 20-14. Jalen Hurts, really interesting day for him. 28 of 45, 280 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions. Obviously, the 3 interceptions are bad, but he also led the team in rushing, 8 carries, 47 yards, and a touchdown. This is why he's valuable, because that tush-push play can get rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts whenever they want. If they stop short of the goal line, here comes a rushing touchdown for Jalen Hurts. This is why he's going to be ranked in that top 3 every single week as far as fantasy quarterbacks, because he has this play that'll just get him a rushing touchdown at any point. DeAndre Swift, disappointing day here. 10 carries, 18 yards. The Jets have a really solid run defense, but that is still a disappointing output for him with how efficient he's been lately. Kenneth Gainwell had 2 carries for 13 yards. Boston Scott also had 2 carries for 2. If you're still rostering Kenneth Gainwell, I think he's a safe drop. A.J. Brown, ever since he started whining on the sideline of Jalen Hurts, he has just been cash money. 7 catches, 131 yards on 9 targets. Keep playing him. Devontae Smith also had 5 catches for 44 yards on 11 targets. He's more that guy you want to play the matchups with, because ever since A.J. Brown started going off, Devontae Smith has sort of taken a backseat. So I don't think Devontae Smith should be avoided whatsoever, because he still has a ton of upside, but chances are on your team there are some receivers available on your bench who can at least challenge Devontae Smith for that receiver spot. Dallas Goedert had 5 catches for 42 yards on 8 targets. Play him every week. Well, he's in that Evan Ingram tier, so if you have a better option, go for it, but chances are you probably don't with how thin tight end is right now. DeAndre Swift made up for his crappy rushing output with 8 catches, 40 yards, and a receiving touchdown on 10 targets. Good stuff there. Good to see him getting used as receiver more, too. Boston Scott had just the 1 catch for 14 yards. Olamide Zaccheaus had a catch for 5, and Kenneth Gainwell had a catch for 4. For the Jets, I don't know how they got this win with this offense, but they did it. Zach Wilson, 19 of 33, 186 yards, no touchdowns and no interceptions. Obviously, we are not adding Zach Wilson under any circumstance. Breece Hall, 12 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown. Keep playing him. He seems to be matchup proof at this point with how much they're giving him the ball, and he's doing really well with it. 3.3 yards per carry against a tough Jets against a tough Eagles running defense is not too shabby whatsoever. Xavier Gibson had a carry for 18. Zach Wilson added 4 carries for 15. Dalvin Cook, he's a safe drop, 3 carries for 12. And Michael Carter also had a carry for 5. Garrett Wilson had a monster day. 8 catches, 90 yards on 12 targets. He's so talented. He's going to get you spike weeks every once in a while, so you can absolutely do worse than starting him every week. Breece Hall added 5 catches for 54 yards, just adding to. He is just about someone you want to play every single week, regardless of matchup, but we're not quite there yet. Tyler Conklin, 3 catches for 24 yards for him. Allen Lazard had a catch for 8. Jeremy Ruckert had a catch for 8. Dalvin Cook, just the 1 catch for 2. Randall Cobb, CJ Uzomah, Michael Carter, and McCole Hardman did not haul in any of their targets. Final game of the night just finished up. The Bills beat the Giants 14-9. Tyrod Taylor played decent. 24-36, 200 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. This is the Tyrod Taylor special. 5 carries, 23 yards. He is game manager extraordinaire, Tyrod Taylor. You're not going to get super big points. He is not considered a fantasy start whatsoever. Saquon Barkley, 24 carries, 93 yards, 3.9 yards per carry. This is pretty much what we were expecting first game back, especially when he was taking it all the way up until game time to decide. The reports all day were pretty optimistic, but there was nothing really concrete. We'll take this, though. High volume, almost 100 yards. Absolutely. Good stuff there. Tyrod Taylor, like I said, 5 carries, 23 yards. Matt Breida, 4 carries for 13 yards. He's not really a play unless Barkley misses time. And Eric Gray came in with a carry for 2 yards, former Sooner. Darius Slayton, 4 catches, 69 yards. He led the way for all receivers. But I think the real ad here is Wan'Dale Robinson, 8 catches, 62 yards, 8 targets. This is the second game in a row that he's gotten some decent volume, so there's got to be something there. I think he's a solid ad right now. I would hold off on playing him because I don't think the yards or the touchdown is going to get there anytime soon, but the high catches is absolutely something worth looking at. Darren Waller, 5 catches, 42 yards. This is a so-so day, but chances are on your roster you don't really have someone better than this. He's comparable to Evan Ingram, but I think he has more upside because he can be that number 1 receiver for this team. And I don't think Evan Ingram will ever truly get there for the Jags, but decent enough day for Darren Waller. And Jalen Hyatt, good to see him getting involved. 3 catches, 21 yards on 4 targets. I wonder if they'll make him get rid of Odell's number 13 after the season, but we'll see if it gets a little better here. And Saquon chipped in 4 catches for 6 yards, and Matt Breida did not haul in his only target. And this was not Josh Allen's finest hour, which is surprising because the Giants are such a good matchup, but only 19-30, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and only 2 carries for 11 yards. Just not a great day for Josh Allen. We could just write this off because he's been the number 1 quarterback in fantasy up to this point, so he can have a game like this. It's just super annoying and hopefully it didn't cost you your matchup. James Cook, 14 carries, 71 yards. Good to see him rebounding off of last week. And Latavius Murray, 12 carries for 45 yards. Good that James Cook is maintaining that his efficiency is way above Latavius. I wonder why he's getting this many carries, but hopefully in the next game it starts to skew more towards James Cook. And Latavius Murray doesn't do what Latavius Murray usually does and get way too many carries in the backfield. It's so surprising that it doesn't matter where he goes. He's always getting way too many carries. And Damian Harris just had the 1 carry for 1 yard, but he went down with that injury. Stephon Diggs, 10 catches, 100 yards, 16 targets, just super solid stuff from him. Even when Josh Allen didn't do well, Diggs still had a great day. So awesome stuff there. He's absolutely one of the best receivers in fantasy. Top 2, I would say it's hard. Cooper Kupp will probably give him a run for his money, but Tyreek Hill is undisputably number 1 to me. But Diggs still top 3 fantasy receiver, absolutely. Gabe Davis, only 3 catches for 21 yards. This is the Gabe Davis experience. We got to remind ourselves it was several weeks in a row of a touchdown, and we were just riding that high, but we knew it was going to come back down eventually. This is a little example here, but at least you got 5 points out of it. So it didn't totally crash out there. Dawson Knox, with Dalton Kincaid out, he got a little bit more targets. He was second on the team in targets. 3 catches, 17 yards on 6 targets. Quentin Morris got his very first target of the year, and it was a really clutch touchdown for Buffalo. So awesome to see that. Khalil Shakir, but annoying for fantasy. Khalil Shakir had a catch for 13, and Deontay Hardy had 1 target, 1 catch, and 3 yards. That'll do it for me, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow at We Are Drafting on Instagram. Weekly rankings, weekly ad drop lists, weekly buy lows, sell highs. See you over there, and thank you again for watching.